Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are reacting to Piers Morgan and Hassan Piker on Piers Morgan. Whenever he's on there, it turns into a shit show. So I'm really excited to review this. I hope you are too. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, do all the things you need to do to boost this video, and let's get into it.
But hold on.
I'm a big fan of you, so I don't want you to die. I feel like your heart pressure is going up. You're turning red, Vinny.
Somebody like you to say America deserved 9/11, Hassan, you shouldn't be on this fucking panel.
President Joe Biden had just one simple job in last night's debate: to convince America.
I'm sorry, that man looked unwell. Did you see how red he was? Did you see how red his face was? That can't be normal.
But he's fit to serve. The bar was set at ankle height, but the president tripped straight over it. He faltered, he mumbled, he lost, and his race must surely now be over for the good of democracy and his country. There were so many toe-curling incidents in last night's debate. We'll analyze and dissect them in detail. But the
toe curling. There were a million ways he could have described it. Toe curling did not have to be one.
Defining moment, the moment they're calling the kill shot, was this.
Total ban on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
Let me start with you, Cenk, because you and I have talked about this many times. As you were watching last night's debate, what was going through your mind?
I was right. As you know, I took an extraordinary step of running for president against Joe Biden in the Democratic primary, even though I'm not even a natural-born citizen.
Hassan is over here trying to hold his laugh back because you can tell this man wants to crack up laughing. Second of all, this man said, I took the extraordinary move of running for president in the Democratic primaries. You didn't do anything extraordinary. That fucking campaign was a flop, and it was just to promote your book. So let's not get too ahead of ourselves here, and let's just kind of come back down to earth. Your presidential race was a flop, my guy, and even if you did get elected, you weren't born here. You wouldn't have been able to hold that spot, because one of the only rules is that you have to be born here.
Because that's how desperate I was, our audience was. We did a poll and we asked our paying members, should I run? And now 9 months ago, 76% of them said, for God's sake, run. And what I took away from it, Piers, and what everyone should remember is how much Democratic leadership lied to you and how much everyone in mainstream media lied to you. They said the emperor had clothes when it was obvious that he had no clothes. They said that he was perfectly fine and he was a dynamo behind the scenes. How preposterous. We were right all along.
There are reports, as we're talking now, that Barack Obama has been having urgent conversations with Joe Biden to try and gently persuade him it may be time to give up. But apparently Jill Biden is resisting, wants him to fight on. Kamala Harris is enraged that her name is not in the conversation to potentially replace him. People want to bypass her completely because she's even more unpopular than he is.
Kamala has to be some sort of delusional because her ratings were trash when she tried to run for president. There was no way on God's green earth she was going to get elected when she tried to run. She wasn't even top 3 or top 5. Like, she was ranking one of the lowest out of all the presidential candidate options that we had. And so for her to be enraged that her name isn't in the hat or that she's not even being considered, yeah, because if Joe Biden's unpopular, Kamala is probably 2 times more unpopular. And aside from her track record as a DA or the fact that she's basically AIPAC's bootlicker, she in general is a black woman. And I'm sorry, I hate to break it to you, America is not at the point to elect any black woman for president, let alone Kamala, with the questionable track record that she's had in regards to both foreign and domestic policy. So, I mean, she can be as mad all she wants. Like, I don't really care. It's incredibly unrealistic to believe that Kamala Harris would be a viable option outside of Joe Biden. It's just preposterous, honestly.
To somebody like Gavin Newsom or someone like that. What is the playbook here? Well, are we into unprecedented territory? Because I don't think any incumbent president in American history who is seeking to be re-elected and hasn't stood down has ever been forced out. There's no mechanism to actually force him out unless he voluntarily goes, is there?
Yeah, there is one mechanism, unfortunately, and it's the donors. Because once the donors stop funding him, then he'll have no oxygen left. Remember, for someone who's a populist like Bernie Sanders, their source of power is the people. But for people like Biden, who are establishment candidates, their source of power is money. And once the money tap is turned off, then he's got no oxygen left. So I don't care what Jill Biden thinks. Are you, like, who's insane enough to care what she thinks? I don't care what Kamala Harris thinks. I care about picking the strongest candidate against Trump. Is democracy on the line or isn't it? Is this the most important election of our lifetime or isn't it? So now they're talking about, oh, whose personality should we care more about? Whose feelings are more important? None of your feelings are important. What's important is that the American people be safe from Donald Trump. And let's be honest, Democratic leadership has never cared about that. And Piers, let's tell your audience why. Because remember, almost everyone on Biden's team, at the White House, on his campaign, at the Democratic National Committee, their jobs are tied to Joe Biden. If there's a new candidate, they all get fired. So they have been enormously
I don't know what's up with this dude. He can't sit still. He literally cannot sit still. He's like moving his lips every 2 seconds.
Monstrously selfish, saying, I don't care if the country burns as long as I get to keep my job. They betrayed you greatly, and you should never listen to them again.
Okay, let me bring in some of the others. Hassan Piker, I mean, you'd have to be willfully negligent with regard to what you saw with your own eyes, wouldn't you, to watch that debate last night and not conclude, as so many Biden supporters and friends have publicly concluded. This is from, people like Frank Bruni at the New York Times and others who just come out and said, you've got to stand down. Did you see anything last night that would allow you to construct an argument that he should continue and be the nominee?
Biden continuing? Absolutely not. But there's another glaringly obvious problem here. Cenk and I have had this conversation personally for years at this point, very publicly, about Biden being ineligible to run and how he's going to lead to the downfall of the Democratic Party and potentially lose a pretty easy to win election against Donald Trump at this point. And we were absolutely right. And it was shocking that so many in the media who are now writing those articles that you're talking about were acting as though Biden was actually a dynamo behind the scenes. There was literally an article I remember from an excerpt from a Jill Stein book about how in order to soften the blow of Biden's age and how old and senile he's appearing on television, they were saying that he had really hard sex with his wife. I mean, that's to the extent that these guys went to in order to try and manufacture this narrative. And to anyone with eyes and ears to hear, they could see what Biden looked like, what Biden's performance looked like. So I don't understand why it's so shocking to people.
What the fuck is Hassan talking about? I don't want to Google this. Good sex is the secret to Joe Biden's long marriage. New book on First Lady says. 101 things I could have died without knowing. President Joe Biden has joked to aides that the key to a long and lasting marriage is good sex, according to a new book that casts a spotlight on their 47-year romance. American Woman, A Transformation of Modern First Lady from Hillary Clinton to Joe Biden was authored by New York Times White House correspondent Katie Rogers and comes out this week. The part about the sex takes up only a few paragraphs in 276-page book, but it's already generated headlines. Rogers writes that Biden opted against running for president in 2004, a decision punctuated by aides when Jill Biden entered the room wearing a halter top with the word no scrawled on her stomach. Joe Biden, now 81, told a group of supporters that year that he had little interest in running for president. I'd rather be at home making love to my wife while my children are asleep. Oh God, okay. Bro, only Hassan would know some weird detail like this, I swear to God.
David Axelrod said on CNN, I believe at this point, 9 months ago, that, Biden has to go. Someone else has to come in and potentially win this race. You have an election coming up right now where the down ballot races, where you have Democratic Party senators doing 10 points better than the top of the ticket, than Joe Biden in places like Nevada, in states like Arizona. These are states that Biden has to win. You have issues, especially post-October 7, with the supposed blue wall that's obviously destroyed. You got Michigan, that's a potential problem for Joe Biden. All of these swing states that The Democratic Party should be clearing up with like Reagan numbers right now are in contest. Having said that, Donald Trump also had a phenomenally bad performance last night. It's just that no one is going to talk about that because one guy was very clearly demented. So when the other guy's talking about immigrants and how they're responsible for everything that is going on for an hour and 30 minutes straight, people didn't even have the time to make that assessment because they were so unimaginably shocked at the fact that the Democratic Party has basically put forward a cadaver and tried to push him over the finish line and are hoping that you don't notice.
Okay, let's bring in Vinny Hasanabi. I want to play a little clip. This is of Gavin Newsom speaking last night.
There is panic. Do you think it's unfounded?
Well, I think it's unhelpful, and I think it's unnecessary. We've got to go in and got to keep our heads high. And as I say, we've got to have the back of this president. You don't turn your back because of one performance. What kind of party does that? It's been a masterclass. 15.6 million jobs. That's 8 times more than the last 3 Republican presidents combined. The only thing the last 3 Republican presidents have in common is recessions. Democrats deliver. This president has delivered. We need to deliver for him.
Now, Vinny, here's the thing. Trump had a great night. I mean, even the CNN poll, 67% of CNN.
Listen, Gavin Newsom everyone likes to paint him as some sort of like progressive god, right? Gavin Newsom is a capitalist shithead, just like the rest of them. Yeah, of course he's being a little Democrat shill because that's basically all him and his family have been for the past, I don't know, however many decades.
CNN viewers felt that Trump put in a better performance than 33% for Biden. God knows who the 33% were, but he obviously won the debate very comfortably just by not doing very much particularly special. But if they do get rid of Biden and they do parachute in somebody like Gavin Newsom, who's young, he's dynamic, he's not afraid to get into the horses, into the lion's den. He went on Fox News with Sean Hannity for an hour and acquitted himself very well. He's eloquent, he's sharp. Yes, he's got a record that can be attacked. But in terms of the visual optics, would that not concern you a bit as a Trump fan, as a Republican, that you might end up out of this victory with a far more difficult opponent to try and defeat in November?
Oh, I think don't put anything past the Democrats. The fact that Gavin Newsom can sit there and literally look at somebody in the face and say, Joe Biden's presidency has been a master class. That Gavin Newsom is one of the most disgusting snakes in the grass. Just look at California. Okay, I even had to write this down, Pierce. Highest taxes in the nation. Thousands of businesses have left. Mandatory vaccine bills. Losing child custody over if your child doesn't transition. $7 gas. This is, and I'm telling you right now, Pierce, it's scary as hell. And I don't care what anybody says. This has all been a plan, okay? They moved the debates up early, all right? They didn't give him any, whatever he was on the State of the Union, Piers, that 60 minutes, he was up. They probably gave him adrenaline.
Why does he talk like that? What is wrong with him? I feel like he can't formulate a sentence properly.
He was there. He was in the moment. This was the time where they put him out there like a sacrificial lamb. They said, listen, Jill, we're not going to give Joe any drugs. We're going to roll him out there. He looked lost. He had no idea what he's going to do. I think the shift is going to happen 100%. There is absolutely no way they're going to stay with him. And that is going to be a huge challenge for the Republicans because we've had a case study, Piers. We've had 4 years of Trump, and now we're going to have 4 years of Biden. There is no debate. There's no arguing. The country is shit right now. And I know Hassan said, Trump is talking about the border and the illegals are the problem. They are the problem, okay? They are. Kerry mentioned one story. There's been 4 this week. 4.
Guys, he's progressively turning more and more and more red. This man does not look well. I feel like he needs to go to an emergency room. He does not look like he's doing okay.
Of young girls getting raped and murders, and people like that say, "Oh, it's not really a problem." You say that because it's not happening to you or your family or your daughter or your mother. Okay, it is a problem, and by the end of this 4 years, the number's probably going to be 18 million.
The whole state of California. I don't know what you're talking about. I live in California. We are the largest border state, as the governor also mentioned.
Yeah, it's a whole.
Yeah, it's a total hellhole, dude.
California is a shit show.
Look at your tan.
Oh, yeah, it's sinking. By the way, first of all, I don't respect any Nepo baby that thinks Twitch streaming is a job. And I want the audience to know, this guy, Hassan, has said in the past that America deserve 9/11. So don't even talk. Don't even open your mouth. Don't even open your mouth. You don't have no reason to talk.
Vinny,
just shut up.
I'm a big
just
fan of you.
do me a favor and shut up.
I'm
respectfully.
a big fan of you. And,
okay, but hold on.
I'm a big fan of you, so I don't want you to die. I feel like your heart pressure is going up. You're turning red, Vinny.
Somebody like you to say America deserved 9/11, Hassan, you shouldn't be on this fucking panel. I'm sorry for my language, Piers. He doesn't belong on your show. That being said, Piers, it'll be a huge challenge.
You triggered, Vinny?
Huge challenge for Democrats.
Should we invoke Donald Trump right now and say, let's not be children?
Yeah, I think that's a very good call, Jenna. Yeah, I think we're going to try and keep things.
Let's not play that
Do you know what was interesting? What was interesting? Well, hang on. What was interesting about last night, actually? I'll bring Cenk back in here. I liked the format, actually, of the way CNN did this.
People are quick to point out that Hassan is a Nepo baby, but no one really points out how all these other political commentators are also Nepo babies too. Most of the people who are content creators, who are successful content creators, are Nepo babies. It's just a fact of the matter. You might find a couple who are self-made, but most of them are Nepo babies. And yeah, exactly, you're right. He's not addressing the crux of the debate, because if you knew what you were talking about, you would just address the issue at hand. You wouldn't immediately divert to personal attacks.
I thought Jake Tapper and Dana Bash did a very competent job. But also, I liked the format where there was no audience to manipulate, perhaps, or save a candidate for themselves, or to overreact to try and drown out a particularly salient point. I don't know what you thought, but I actually thought it was a pretty good format.
So, Piers, a lot of people are criticizing CNN now, and in fact, they themselves this morning admitted that maybe we should have fact-checked Trump once or twice when he said, like, deranged things like, oh, there's post-birth abortions. That doesn't make any sense at all.
But my answer would be, Joe Biden should have done it. Right, Biden should have called him out on all those things, but he wasn't able to do it.
Hold on. That's exactly what I'm getting to,
right.
Piers. So, you know, when somebody says something so stupid like that, and like Trump says, oh, they let out all the mental institutions and the prisoners of countries, the opponent has a responsibility to say, which countries?
Yeah.
Tell me which countries released all their prisoners and mental inmates, etc. What are you talking about, post-birth abortion? That doesn't even make any sense, you deranged lunatic. So, yeah, I'm not getting on Jake Tapper or Dana Bash. The guy opposed to you is supposed to make those super obvious points.
Yeah.
Look, at this point...
That's actually so fucking true. Because after the debate, all these liberals were like, oh, CNN had no moderation. CNN just let Trump say da-da-da. My guy, that's the point of a debate. One person says one thing, the other person counters it. It's not our fault that this man was so senile that he couldn't even fucking counter-argue the terrible points that Trump was making. That's pretty much Joe Biden's job.
At this point, this conversation about whether Joe Biden's going to drop out is over. He's definitely going to drop out. The donors no longer think he's a good investment. And think about this, Piers. If he doesn't drop out, imagine what history is going to say about him. That he put his monstrous ego, maybe an ego even larger than Donald Trump's, above the needs of the country, the party, the voters. It's an unbearable thought. He would become one of the great villains of American history. And there's actually a really easy way to replace him. All he has to do is say, I'm out. And then we go back to a traditional convention where the delegates decide. That's almost always how Americans
decide their candidates, I think we discussed,
anyway.
Yeah, we discussed it before, but two incumbent Democrat presidents since the end of World War II have both stood down in election year, Harry Truman and Lyndon Johnson. So there's a precedent here for this to happen. It just hasn't happened where the incumbent president doesn't want to go. Jenna, I want to bring you in just on one point, which is the behaviour of Jill Biden after the debate. Watch this.
Oh, you did such a great job. You answered.
This clip is so fucking funny. I don't think you guys understand. This clip literally took me out. You guys need to understand how hilarious this clip is before I even play it, okay? It's really fucking funny.
Oh, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the... And let me ask the crowd, what did Trump do? Why?
I mean, I found that pretty painful to watch. She then led a child of 4 more years. And the reason it's painful is she...
Honestly, at this point, it's almost like you take your toddler to basic gymnastics class and then you're really happy that they were able to do a cartwheel that wasn't even a cartwheel. I don't know. Usually Joe Biden. Usually Piers Morgan's panels are very entertaining. I don't know. He kind of dragged this one out. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think the only reason why it got this many views is because of Hassan. Because the content of it is kind of boring.
I mean, look, I can see people trying. A lot of people in the Democrat Party like Biden. I've read Thomas Friedman saying he cried last night. The New York Times columnist when he was watching it. Frank Bruni was sort of tearing up. Everyone's tearing up. I don't really feel emotional, I'm afraid, and I find it very hard to feel sympathy for Joe Biden. I think it was very sad what we watched, but I also think we're now at the stage where this is actually willfully selfish and harming to the Democrat Party, isn't it?
I only have one point that I have sympathy for Joe Biden on. But first of all, these guys, I mean, look at the people in power, whether it's media or Democratic leadership. They're all crying because, their beloved Joe Biden didn't look good. I mean, this guy just sent $20 billion to slaughter more Palestinian children. I cry for them. I don't cry for Joe Biden, except one thing. Last night was elder abuse. And it was elder abuse by the entire Democratic leadership, the DNC, and yes, sorry, but Jill Biden. If Jill Biden...
They gotta stop with this elder abuse bullshit. Like, I find it very hard to believe that Joe Biden can't make his own decisions. If Joe Biden genuinely cared about the greater good of this country, he would step down. It's literally that simple. But he doesn't because he knows. He doesn't want to be that guy in history that only did a one-term presidency and had to step down because he got too old, okay? It's embarrassing. These motherfuckers have a lot of ego, okay? I've been on Capitol Hill. Every single person on Capitol Hill has a fucking ego, let alone the guy that became president. So they gotta stop with this whole elder abuse bullshit. He's literally choosing to do this.
Biden wants to run for president, she should do it. But, I mean, there's no way that a loving spouse lets that happen.
No, I agree.
And thinks, oh, great, push him out there, we got this. You don't have it. This is absurd. But the one piece of good news out of all this, Piers, is it's over. We're going to get a new candidate, and hopefully we're going to kick Donald Trump's ass.
And Cenk, before I go to Hassan, who would your preference be for who that person should be that could actually be the nominee and potentially beat Trump?
So the problem with the Democratic Party is that they never pick a populist in a populist time. They keep picking the most establishment candidates there are when the American people keep telling you they don't want establishment candidates like Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. So they should pick a populist, but they won't. Of course, the top candidate is Bernie Sanders, and he would easily beat Donald Trump. Everybody actually knows that. They just don't. And let's be honest, the Democratic Party would rather have Donald Trump than Bernie Sanders. So, but if you say no, Bernie Sanders is too...
No, Bernie Sanders is way too old. I'm sorry, Bernie Sanders he's too old. He's too fucking old. He's too old. We gotta stop with the fucking old people. Seriously, let it go. Once they reach 80, you gotta let it go. Bernie Sanders is too old.
Too old, or we can't have it. You can go to Ro Khanna. You can go to Jamie Raskin. Jamie Raskin's beloved by everyone in the Democratic Party. He's incredibly smart, incredibly principled.
Jamie Raskin. Listen, I have met this man in person. He is a very, very, very sweet person. He also has very sweet grandpa energy, okay? But do I think he would win a populist vote? No. Just no.
I mean, he would eviscerate Donald Trump in a debate. Let's pick someone who can win and actually represent the people.
Okay. Before I come to Hassan, actually, let me just get Vinny's reaction to that. What one name?
I'm afraid I'm going to disagree with Cenk there.
Yeah, go on then. Okay, Hassan, you respond. Yeah.
Okay. First of all, Big Gretch. That's it. That's the method. That's the movement. Okay. Put Mama Gretch in office. Okay. She's popular. She's in a pivotal state. She would absolutely crush it. I don't like Gavin Newsom at all. I think he has a lot of weaknesses. I think he's horrible. He's done an abysmal job refusing to fix the housing crisis in California that's obviously contributing to the homelessness crisis so that, Guys like Vinny can complain about how much of a shithole California is or whatever people talk about. Like, that would stick on a national level on Gavin Newsom. Don't turn the rest of the country into California would be the attitude. Another good guy, I think, another great guy, J.B. Pritzker, governor of Illinois. We need a big boy in office. We need a dynamo. We need a guy with a kind heart. You know, he could even, I'm not exactly a fan of him being a billionaire, but ultimately, you know, maybe we could have a real billionaire against Donald Trump's phony billionaire status. Who knows? Anyone would be better than Joe Biden at this point. Even Hillary Clinton.
Well, okay. Well, that's interesting. Okay.
Gretchen Whitmer, I think, is the strongest candidate, although she's a woman. So I think her campaign would be much harder just because she's a woman. And I think our country has not progressed to a point where we can vote a woman in. But with Gretchen, I think she's a very strong candidate. I think Gretchen is probably the best bet, in my opinion.
That's interesting. For those who don't know, well, hang on, hang on. For those who don't know who the Gretch is, by the way, it's the Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. But I want to come to Vinny. Hillary Clinton's name is being talked up here as potentially the unfinished business, that she comes sweeping back and she does what she failed to do in 2016.
We gotta let this Hillary Clinton conversation go, please. Make Hillary irrelevant again. That's gonna be my campaign slogan. Make Hillary Clinton irrelevant again.
2016, and she actually beats him. What are your thoughts about Hillary returning?
You know what, Piers? I think she's finished. Hillary Clinton has no chance. I think every single time she gets in front of a camera, it's hurting the Democratic Party. I think she's the worst. From her history with her and her husband, it's abysmal. Let's not even get into the Clinton Foundation and Epstein and her husband. That's a whole different can of worms. But I think it's funny how everybody on the left is so, this whole failed presidency is because of Biden's age and his dementia, which he definitely has. Whoever's going to come in, it's the Democratic Party's policies. Plain and simple. I don't give a damn who you put in there. Gretch, Bernie Sanders, communism, you want socialism, you want all that crap. It's not going to fix anything. That shit's going to keep going.
Jenna, if you were a Democrat right now, who would you think had the best chance of actually taking Trump on? You know Trump very well. You know his weaknesses, his strengths. Who of all the Democrat names you've seen touted would you fear most, potentially, as being the one that could win it for the Democrats?
Well, I actually agree with what Cenk said, that we really need a populist on both sides that actually...
She agreed with what Cenk said. Cenk!
...up someone who isn't so far extreme leftist establishment, then I think that they have a real chance of actually getting disaffected
who is that person?
Republicans as well. And I think that they should put up someone like an Andrew Yang. They should have gone with RFK Jr.
There's no way she's serious. Andrew Yang and RFK, the man who claimed he had brain worms and then ended up actually having brain worms. These people should not be political commentators. These people should not be political commentators.
In momentum after last night's debate, and anyone realistically that the Democrats put up now, if it's not someone as far left as a Gretchen Whitmer, for example, has a real shot at winning. But what I think the American people need to do is take a hard look at the U.S. Constitution. We have a minimum. Because look at what she did during the COVID lockdowns.
Can you give me like
look
one
at how
policy?
She has. So look at what she did during the COVID lockdowns. Okay. Look at her position on extreme on abortion. Look at how she has run her state as basically taking legislative power into the executive. So look at her position on queer
position
theory.
on abortion
so
that you
she
find
is
so
for
extreme?
Abortion. So her position on abortion that is so extreme is that she wants no limits at all, no restrictions. And most of the country is not for that. Even the Democrats themselves know that there needs to be some restrictions, at least in third term. No, that is absolutely true. And I mean, feel free to fact check me on that if she's changed her position. But
no restrictions
all of the
on the
Democrat
third trimester
leftists,
is a falsehood. That's not a real thing. Every conversation that we have with Republicans unfortunately revolves around
hang on.
hallucinations of Republicans.
My former home state of Colorado allows abortion until the day of birth. That is the law in 7 states right now, including California, where Gavin Newsom is the governor.
There is
so
no
there
state,
are people
there is no
that can
state
go in. Yes,
in the country where you can have a third trimester abortion without without
Colorado,
a doctor
California,
giving
there are
you a
7
medical
states.
exemption, no, you still have to
No,
get
look at
a
the law.
psychiatric
Look at the law, and it
evaluation
doesn't matter whether
and a healthcare evaluation.
No, but it's still
Do you
allowed.
think
That's the
women
point.
are
the
going
point
around?
is that it is still
Okay,
allowed.
you're a woman. You're a woman. You're a woman. Have you ever been pregnant? I have a
Yeah.
question for you. Have you? Or I don't know. Have you? Okay, so you know
my
how
medical history
tumultuous
is
of a
not
process
relevant
that is.
here, but
It's
I am
actually,
and so I mean,
no,
have you
it
ever
is.
been
It is
pregnant?
because the
How
point
are
I'm
you?
making
How
is
are you?
it is a
How are you
it is
speaking to
obviously
abortion?
it
That's
is
completely
obviously
irrelevant. The point
I've never
here
been pregnant,
is that
but it seems like I understand it as good as you do. What's happening here?
No, you actually
If
don't
no
understand
woman is
it
carrying a
because
pregnancy
of the law
for
in
9
7
months,
states.
so they can have a regular.
Whether Hassan is pregnant.
No woman
Let
is
me
carrying
finish
pregnancy for
answering
9
the
All right,
months.
question actually about
so they can have
Gretchen
a
Whitmer.
Guys, you're
abortion.
talking
Let
over
me
each other.
finish what Piers asked.
I just have some
Let me
breaking
finish what
news.
Piers
I
asked.
have some breaking news for everyone. The Biden campaign spokesperson, Seth Schuster.
Listen, no hate. What was the point of asking her if she's ever been pregnant? I feel like it is so easy to flip that question into him, just like peg him into being a misogynist. Like, I'm really curious to see like what his angle was with doing that.
Schuster says that Biden will not be exiting the race. There's no basis for that. There's nothing that voters have indicated that they agree with that. Senior White House correspondent at CNN, Kayla Tausch, said on X, not only does POTUS not plan to drop out, Biden remains committed, incredibly, to a second debate in September. An advisor tells me. I cannot see that happening. But we actually have now.
Listen, my only thing, here's my point. When you're debating someone, especially when you're debating a woman, you don't want to fall into the line of asking a question or saying something where you can get pegged as a misogynist or someone that's saying that only because of that person's circumstance. For example, if I'm debating a woman, I'm not going to ask her, have you ever been pregnant? Or when did you get your period? Or shit like that, right? You don't ask them questions that have to do with their identity or their biological, whatever assignment, whatever. It's just something you don't do. So I'm just very curious as to what his logic was asking her if she's ever been pregnant, because even if she would have said yes, what does that have to do with the conversation of abortion bans? I personally don't understand. Maybe at some point he explained it. I would love to hear the explanation, but I just personally don't really understand what the logic behind that was.
Somebody joining us who is pro-Biden and thinks that he won last night. It's the TikToker Harry Sisson. Harry, you think Biden won last night?
One person.
This is about to turn into a shit show.
Yeah, no, I did, definitely. On the substance of the conversation, Biden won. His policy was pragmatic, it was logical, and Donald Trump just lied the entire time.
Right, but the problem you've got is I saw the CNN fact checkers on Joe Biden's public statements last night, and it was just untruth after untruth after untruth.
Oh, I'm not sitting here I'm not sitting here telling you that Joe Biden tells the truth every single time he speaks, or that he gets every single number right and every single statistic right.
He gets most of them wrong.
Okay, so for those of you that don't know who Harry Sisson is, Harry is a political TikToker, and he tends to lean incredibly liberal to the point where he does not hold the ability to genuinely hold Joe Biden accountable. Like, he's very lib. I mean, I'm not here to discredit how he believes or how he thinks, but he is also a lot younger than a lot of the other political content creators. And I remember when I was a lot younger, I also used to lean very Democrat, so maybe it's that. It could also be that he's getting paid really well by the Biden campaign, which I know a lot of these liberal content creators are getting paid by the Biden campaign. So I don't necessarily know what it is or what it isn't, but it's very important to note.
That's not true. To compare Joe Biden's lies to Donald Trump's lies is laughable. Trump told over 30,000 lies during his presidency, averaging around 20 a day, and he showed that last night when he lied about every single thing he talked about. Lying doesn't win debates.
Yeah, but the problem is, if you're going to use lying or misleading the public with statements against a candidate, you've got to make sure your own candidate speaks with unforked tongue. I mean, Biden, barely a week goes by without him saying something which is immediately proven to be untrue. Listen, I'm not denying that Trump made a series of untrue statements. He does that. He barrels through and hopes that the big messages about the border and so on kick home, and they probably do, actually, with many Americans. But if Biden's going to play the lying card as a pro-Biden thing against Trump, he's got to tell the truth and get his numbers right. He can't then have a fact check from CNN, which was painful to watch last night. It went on and on and on. Almost every statistic he came out with was completely wrong.
Yeah, but Pierce, I mean, let's be real here. Like, if you're
one,
lying,
did you
if
see
you
the
get
one where he said
one sec, Vinny, you look like a. Relax, buddy. If you're getting a number incorrect, right? If you're getting a number incorrect, that's like a very
so 7
small
years
law.
ago,
Hold on now, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. Excuse me, you right there.
Were you 10 years old, Harry?
What was that?
How old were you when Trump won? 10 years old? 7
Vinny,
years ago, you were 10
you
years
look like
old,
you're about
bro.
to explode.
You don't know
Relax.
what the hell you're talking about.
Take a breather.
That's not
Hassan
relevant.
was right to
His
call.
age
You
is
have
irrelevant.
makeup. He's entitled to his
Hassan,
opinion.
listen. I know Hassan's a big fan of mine. He
You're
was
10
right to
years
call you
old.
out for looking like you're about to explode. It's okay, no problem here.
Yeah, you were 10
no,
years
look,
old when
you have
Trump
to, you have to
won.
level.
You were
Get
10
him,
years
Harry.
And what are you, like 80? Like, relax, buddy. Take a breather. You're okay. I promise. It's okay.
Ooh,
Take
that
a
was
breather.
so good.
Zen,
so
Zen,
good.
yoga.
Biden's
Yoga's
a-
good.
Biden-
Yoga's
Last
good.
guy-
Listen, I'm not a Harry fan, but that was hella funny. And what are you, 80?
Yeah,
Biden
yoga's
was
good.
full of
Can I
shit.
just say, it doesn't. I don't
shit.
actually care how old either of you are. Let's get back to the real reality, which is I care about the age of the president because he looks like he's 180. So, Harry, I'm just bemused.
I do care about
33% of
Woody.
people
I do care about
watching
Woody,
it apparently
though.
think
He looks like he's
Biden
gonna
won.
explode.
I don't
Wait,
know.
I gotta make a comment about
Hang
the lie
on,
real
hang on.
quick. I gotta make a comment about
I
the
don't know how anybody honestly can watch that debate and honestly conclude that Biden won. You'd have to be so deeply embedded in the Democrat partisan tank that you can't crawl out long enough to see the wood for the trees.
So first thing, I want to respond to your lie comment. I think that, yeah, we want both candidates to be honest, but we have to weigh the lies here. Like, if Joe Biden gets a statistic incorrect, that is vastly different than Donald Trump still pushing lies about January 6th and about the election. So that's first and foremost. But second of all, as I said,
He said, listen, I know they both lie, but which lie is worse though? But did you die? That's literally his argument. He's like, listen, yeah, they both lie, but like, which lie is worse though? Trump or Biden?
as I said, the substance of the conversation is what matters. Trump can scream the loudest, he can lie the most. That doesn't mean you win a debate. When Joe Biden's up there saying, like, you know what, my policy is pragmatic. I want to.
He said the substance, my guy. Joe Biden had no substance. What substance did Joe Biden bring to the table? We didn't even understand what he was saying half the time.
Give women their reproductive rights. I want to continue to lower healthcare costs. I want to expand healthcare for veterans more and more. That's pragmatic policy. That's logical.
But Harry, the problem. Okay, but Harry, here's the problem.
That's substance.
Harry, here's the problem. He couldn't articulate his views in a way that anyone could really understand. And secondly, and more crucially, in Trump, he has an opponent who tells a lot of untruths. And what you want the President of the United States to do is to be quick-witted enough and sharp enough and intelligent enough to, every time he does that, leap on it and tell the American people why what he said was untrue. Biden was simply incapable of doing any of that. And that's what a lot of Democrats have said overnight is the most problematic thing. It's not that he's old or anything. It's that he was incapable of either articulating policy in a way that resonated or holding Trump to account. Honestly, for most average viewers watching, was utterly incomprehensible. And the problem he's got is that Trump sounded and looked exactly like he did in 2020 and 2016, like he's always done.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, he did.
He did not. He did not sound exactly like he did in 2020.
I promise you, go back and watch Trump
He
in
was rambling
2016.
incoherently.
Go back and watch Trump in 2016.
Incorrect.
Compared to last night, it's the same guy. You may not like him, but he's an embellisher, and he'll tell lies, but he'll ram home the messages. And one of his trump cards, literally, is that he can hit home messaging in a way that resonates with people at home.
Yeah, it's certainly not the same guy when the Trump in 2024. The Trump in 2024 is talking about boats sinking and like sharks and batteries and all that stuff, and he's telling these insane lies about the election. I mean, in 2020 he was claiming that China was bringing in bamboo ballots. I mean, this is like your crazy uncle at Thanksgiving who's screaming in the corner. This is not a presidential candidate. This is a dude who just rambles incoherently on the debate stage, as he did last night.
And do you believe, Harry, finally, do you believe...
How can you with a straight face say that Donald Trump was rambling when Joe Biden was the one rambling? Donald Trump was actually pretty coherent. You know what? This is the reason why Democrats will lose. Because they fail to admit even the simplest thing. They can't even come on camera and say, like, you know what? Yeah, he was incoherent, but guess what? Donald Trump's a felon, and I don't want to vote for a felon. It's literally that simple. You don't have to gaslight everyone into thinking that Donald Trump was the incoherent one. It was Joe Biden. Like, that's literally a matter of fact. Honestly, at some points, it's giving full-on cult following. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, these people make fun of MAGA Trumpists all the time, which I understand. Like, MAGA Trumpists are extremists, right? And I'm not a fan of extremists. But when you are so extreme to the point where you're saying the opponent was stumbling and not the person that we're actually talking about, you can't even admit that Joe Biden isn't fully there. You're not going to sway anyone.
Believe in your heart that Joe Biden is the right person to lead the Democrats into the election in November? And do you believe he can win?
He can win. He's going to win. And as Vice President Harris said, we don't let a 90-minute performance negate 3.5 years of progress. Biden's the only man who has beaten Donald Trump, and he's going to do it again.
Thank you for joining me. Harry, thank you very much. Well, joining me now is the Republican National Committee spokeswoman, Elizabeth Pipka.
Harry wants Trump to win.
I literally don't care what she has to say, to be honest.
That we shouldn't pick a different candidate. You're saying I'm super happy to have Donald Trump as president and have him destroy this democracy. It's a betrayal of the Democratic Party. But right now, the RNC should be panicking, not celebrating, because they're going to get a new candidate, and that new candidate is going to kick Trump's ass. That debate turned out to be a disaster for both of the candidates.
Okay, Vinny, I can see you not entirely agreeing with that assessment.
Because I'm just so curious. Like, what threat to democracy? Why didn't he do and burn the country down when he was the president? Why didn't he? All that Putin stuff, all that BS. It's all these Democrats. You guys all have Stockholm syndrome, okay? You guys have all fallen in love with your abuser, and the abuser is the Democratic Party. They don't give a shit about you. They don't care. They don't care. Wheel out whoever you want. It's going to be the same policies. Everything that's happening right now is going to keep happening. What's so good about Joe? What has Joe Biden done? Can anybody give me one thing? And don't say infrastructure. It's absolute shit show, and it's not him running the show, as we saw yesterday.
All right,
hold on. It's the them. It's the them. It's the them when... What?
I think Hassan wants to give you one thing, Hassan.
It's not even just one thing. Here's the problem, okay? I don't like Joe Biden. He went from Jim Crow Joe to Genocide Joe, and he is a monstrous person for the most part, as are many American presidents. Having said that, however, one of the key factors here is that the administration is competent. I use the example of Twitter, right? Twitter used to be run by liberal Jack Dorsey, right? That's his name, I think. I can't really remember. And it wasn't exactly the greatest website, but at least it functioned. And then Elon Musk took over, and we saw exactly what happened to Twitter. It is now a right-wing shithole filled to the brim with gore porn and just the worst imaginable positions that you've ever heard, and just open white supremacist Nazis getting hundreds of thousands of likes. And that's basically the difference between at least like a Democratic administration, which does fill the agencies. You have the NLRB doing phenomenal work. You have Lena Khan doing phenomenal work at FTC. You have the EPA, at least relatively competent. These are all issues that are going to become massive complications down the line when you have something like Project 2025 openly talking about abolishing the Department of Education, abolishing the EPA. And that's precisely why people like Cenk and myself, who are not exactly big fans of Joe Biden and haven't shied away from criticism, see the writing on the wall, see exactly how damaging someone like Donald Trump's second term is going to look like, and see how damaging Republican policies have become and how reactionary the Republican Party has become, even more reactionary than before.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would also say that...
And what that says
you've
for
hit on something.
Americans, why we want to
Hang on,
Biden.
don't talk at once. I'll come to you. Hassan, I think you've hit on something there, which is it was not only Biden's inability to hold Trump to account for the lies he was telling, but also his inability to sell himself and what he's achieved. Because there are achievements there.
Absolutely.
But actually, he's been incapable. Gavin Newsom, in that 1-minute clip I showed earlier, was able to articulate better achievements by Biden than Biden's been able to do. That's why Biden's approval rating is in the tank at like 37%. Thank you to my panel. Much appreciated. You've been with me a long time.
All right. What do I think about that debate? I think for the most part it was boring. I think Piers could have had a lot of zingers. He could have had Joey and Hassan go at it. He could have had Joey and Harry go at it. He could have had Hassan and the lawyer go at it. He could have literally brought Carrie Lake onto the debate panel. That would have been its own thing. But unfortunately, he brought on too many people, and most of those people ended up being duds. So, did this panel do anything? No. Did it change my mind on anything? No. Do we have productive conversations on much? Not really. So, yeah, I don't know. He's trying a new method and it didn't really fucking work. But I talk so much shit that one day he's gonna invite me and that's when I'm gonna be cooked, honestly. So I should probably stop talking so much shit. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment for more videos like this. I'll see you next time.